G'day freedom lovers and patriots, I'm your host George Christensen, former Australian Member of Parliament, and this is Nation First, a show dedicated to finding the truth and pulling back the curtain on the globalists for all to see. We believe in defending our sovereignty and democratic free way of life, and that we have to be on the right side of history by resisting the Great Reset. Now make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell to get alerts when we have more news to share with you to help push back against the Great Reset. Let's dive in. It was Henry Kissinger who once said, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world." We are seeing that even today in this postmodern world. The power-hungry elite are out in the open about their agenda to have a centralised way of living for the common people, centralised to the point of kill switches in your electric vehicles, microchips put in your wrist to make purchases, social credit scores like we see in communist China, digital ration cards, central bank digital currencies that not only track everything you spend your money on, but also limit the things that you can buy. It sounds far-fetched and light years away, but at this rate of acceleration we are seeing with the wars, famine, energy crises, inflation and supply chain issues, it's not long off before we are being told what to eat and how much to eat. If they can tell you what drugs to shoot in your arm, then they will stop nothing short of telling you what food to eat, or should I say, what bugs to eat. Let's dive in on today's episode and discuss a range of topics. Bill Gates scooping up more farmland in the USA, laws being put into place that impact farmers globally, the war on food and how you can prepare and protect yourself. Let's first talk, though, about everyone's favourite billionaire, Bill Gates. You would think with how much the common man has caught on to the agenda of Bill Gates that he would be laying low for a while, but nope. Just this past summer, he was gobbling up more farmland in the United States, this time in North Dakota, where he bought 2,100 acres of potato farmland, and the locals are angry. The state's top prosecutor had to intervene because there were that many complaints about it coming from the locals. This purchase now brings Gates' total portfolio to a whopping 270,000 acres of farmland across the United States of America. Gates claimed this purchase was linked to biofuel development, but this is coming from the same guy suggesting we should all eat lab-grown meat and bugs. Yes, they're serious about that, and this is how they will convince you to do it. Make sure the fear and shame machines are running at full steam. Make natural meat ridiculously expensive. You're seeing it in the supermarkets right now. Make bug-based foods ridiculously cheap, backed, of course, by taxpayer subsidies. Make bug-based foods excitingly innovative, because Westerners are like that. We're in need of constant novelty. It's a cheeseburger, but made of crickets and larvae milk. Make sure those bug-based manufactured foods taste delicious and are full of wildly addictive substances like synthetic sugars and seed oils. Make sure we're offered the false dichotomy of bad, evil foods versus organic and free-range bug-based manufactured foods. And that'll suck in those with slightly more money and an undying need to virtue signal. This is the new normal that they have in mind. The pandemic was just a Kickstarter for the Great Reset agenda. Once again, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell to get alerts when we have more news on that agenda to share with you. Let's switch gears here and discuss the reality we're living in. The world is now facing a man-made food catastrophe. It is reaching crisis levels. With global prices of food and fertilizers already reaching worrying highs, the continuing impacts of the pandemic, the political forces to realize climate change goals, and the Russia-Ukraine conflict raise serious concerns for food security, both in the short term and the long term. The world is facing a further spike in food shortages, pushing more families worldwide at risk for severe malnutrition. Furthermore, the growth of economies and the development of nations are currently slowing down due to a lack of workforce because of a sharp decrease in well-being, a decrease in livelihoods, a decrease in public health, and higher mortality rates. And we can't say what's causing that on YouTube. Having said that, the powers that be want to shrink the global population by any means necessary. In the wake of the new environmental limits that require farmers to radically curb their nitrogen emissions by up to 70% in the next 8 years, tens of thousands of Dutch farmers rose in protest against their government. Those farmers will be forced to use less fertiliser and will be forced to reduce the number of their livestock, in some cases up to 95%. For smaller family-owned farms, it will be impossible to reach those goals. Many will be forced to just shut up shop, including people whose families have been farming for up to 8 generations. This situation isn't unique to the Netherlands. Farmers all around the world are copying it with these green laws. And when farmers are hit, so are their workers. Many of them lose their jobs. And the businesses that supply them also cop it. They go bankrupt in some cases. But the emotional toll that farmers face to euthanize healthy herds is immense and hardly bearable. For some, it's not bearable at all. The good news is farmer protests are rising worldwide, supported by more and more citizens who stand up against the expensive mandates for changes to green policies that already brought about massive misery and instability. At a ministerial conference for food security on June the 29th, 2022, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that worsening food shortages could lead to a global catastrophe. We're already seeing what that catastrophe could look like with Sri Lanka, a country whose political leader introduced a zero nitrogen and carbon dioxide emissions policy. Sri Lanka is now facing economic crisis, severe hunger, and difficulty to access food upon a political decision that farmers were not allowed to use fertilizers and pesticides. Still, the politicians responsible for these sort of things and climate change in other countries pursue the same green policies. Failed policies don't ever go away. They just keep getting repeated until we all have to suffer through them. No wonder Henry Kissinger's words ring true to this day. There are things that are happening in our world that are out of your control, but there are things that are in your control. You can choose to go along with the agenda, the Great Reset agenda, and believe the elite have your best interest in mind, or you can take action and become self-sufficient. You can begin growing your own food. Our grandparents did it. There's no reason to say that we can't learn and adapt to doing it again. The foods we grow ourselves are immensely better for us than most store-bought food. And there is something beautiful about pulling a vegetable out of the ground that you have harvested yourself. Another piece of advice that I can give you is to befriend local farmers. There's nothing stronger than a relationship. Having a connection with someone who provides value to your life and your refrigerator and your stomach is a must going into this next decade. My last piece of advice is to become your own central bank. How? Well, stack hard assets in preparation for a new system, the Great Reset, potentially being implemented. Currencies are collapsing right around the world, and sky-high inflation rates look to be here for quite some time. Owning precious metals such as gold and silver, getting together supplies, gear, and anything else you will need to weather a rocky few years ahead might be the move that needs to be made to protect you and your family. And we know central banks around the world have been stockpiling gold over the last decade, and I wonder if they know something that we don't. We have to remember that the people have always had the power. We still do, and communism has always failed. The attempt this time to pull it off might be muddy, but on the other side, liberty and freedom are going to prevail. I encourage you to speak truth, live life well, and do what's needed to prepare, protect, and prosper on the other side. I conclude with this. Man-made crises are the worst kind of crisis. It shows the lunacy and malicious intent of human beings who are in power. We have to live through it and do what we can to make the best of it. Our world is ever changing, but the intent of those in charge remains the same. They want to control the population in any way they can. The decentralizing effects of the internet and independent media has made them lunge for power even more aggressively. We know their plan will fall short, but we need your help to make sure it does. This information will no doubt be shadow banned, censored, or hidden on search results. So please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell to get alerts when we have more news to share with you on the Great Reset. And please share this video with everyone you know. This is Nation First. I'm George Christensen. Until next time, God bless you, your family, and our nation.